This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Take Control Books, the answers you need now from leading experts. Learn more and download yours at takecontrolbooks.com. Hi, I'm Chuck Joyner, and this is MacVoices at AltConference and WWDC in San Francisco. I'm lucky enough to sit down with Mike Lee, one of the, let's see, I got to get it right, the coordinator for inclusion and safety.
Safety and inclusion, yep.
Got it, safety and inclusion, okay, at the AltConference, and also one of the speakers. And God, Mike, you're almost a legend. Is that fair?
I guess you'd have to ask somebody else that question.
All right, that's good. So let's start out at the top. Safety and inclusion. Define safety and inclusion for us. What did that involve?
Well, it mostly involved a lot of people in the community who are concerned that they really only want to put their effort and attention into things that are going to be inclusive for everyone. And I felt that that was something that was sufficiently important. After talking to a lot of the leaders on this kind of thing in the community, people like the Model View culture crew over there, and a lot of the just developers that I've known for a long time, we're all on the same page on this, I think. And my feeling about it was, I think this is as important as fire, as earthquake. I think that it's the most important thing. And so I wanted to be the one in charge of it.
Okay, so help me out here, because a lot of the consumer level users are not going to be aware of this issue. So can you take us through it a little bit and why you feel so strongly about it?
Well, a lot of the consumer level people are very different from the people who make products for them.
Right.
And that is very problematic because we're responsible for building the future. And I look around and see that we're building it wrong. And I think the fundamental reason why we're building it wrong is because we're building it for ourselves and our bosses and not for the people who are actually using these products. Well, this is the Apple way of doing things. We try to do things better. Doing things better means understanding real people, not just a bunch of pasty white nerds.
Okay, I'll go with that for a moment. So what are some of the areas where you see things maybe not going the way you think they should?
Well, it's an interesting situation, Chuck, because in our community, we've always been a very inclusive crew. But it's really important that we not label ourselves as inclusive. It's important that we take these things seriously, that we take people's concerns seriously. And so, for example, a lot of people wanted us to have a code of conduct, which says who is and isn't allowed to come to our conference, who is and isn't welcome. But, we have this kind of Amsterdam Burning Man thing going on here, and we really want everyone to be included, because my feeling is there are some people out there who have some attitudes that I personally would have a problem with. Those attitudes are never going to change if we don't let them in the door.
Okay, that's fair.
Right?
Are we talking along racial lines, national lines, political lines?
Anything, honestly, to be honest. Like, I think that gender lines are really important to a lot of people. But I don't really see it as a gender issue. I just see it as a general, like, we're all different. We need to stop labeling and judging each other and just accept each other, right? So we just wanted to make sure that we could have everybody here but have everybody safe. So we put a lot of things into place. We have a lot of volunteers who are all wearing very specific matching T-shirts. They only have those T-shirts. They only wear them at work. They've been trained that there's a coordinator and a safety vest. Their contact information is always on file. They can always be gotten a hold of. Every talk, every event that we do, the party tonight, we have somebody to let everybody know. You have any kind of problems, somebody says something that's weird or exclusionary or something's on fire, find anybody in this T-shirt. They know what to do. They'll find the coordinator. We'll make sure that you're taken care of. So it's really interesting that you, and I absolutely see your point, that you're trying to elevate this issue up there with the safety issue. And there's a bit of a crossover, too, because some people can become passionate in the wrong direction about certain issues, and why can't we all just get along? Why can't we all just delight in the tech that we all love? I mean, you and I may argue over the best way to approach a particular problem, but at the end of the day, we still go out for a drink. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
What's the big
if
deal?
One of us has to stop drinking for medical reasons, then we should still be able to be friends, right?
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. One of the things I love about coming to these conferences, Macworld, NAB, WWDC, CES, you get to sit down with people from all over the world, and you can laugh about your differences. You laugh about who's eating what, or the accents or anything, and it's completely good-natured because they'll rib me right back.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like, fine. So yes, although I'm not sure about pasty white nerd. I'm not like that may have crossed the line, Mike. I'm not sure.
It's easy for me to say. My dad was Japanese, so I get away with these things.
Okay. You just, and I know you have to go, but I'm so glad we had a chance to talk. But you just wrapped up a talk over at the AltConf presentation part.
I did.
What was your talk on?
It was about this very topic. It's why I'm so fired up about it.
So what kind of response did you get?
Overwhelmingly positive, I would say. A lot of people kind of think that talking about these things is crazy, right? Or, I mean, it's like when you said, why can't we all get along? We laughed, just like everyone in the culture laughed, because it's ridiculous. And why is it ridiculous, right? It shouldn't be ridiculous. And I want people to understand that racism and sexism, it's not something that other people do, right? I have the same racist and sexist and every other kind of ist urges all the time, right? But it's like you stop yourself and you're like, oh, well, hold on a minute. Right? Is that really what I'm trying to do?
Right.
Here's the thing. If you're going to be evil on purpose. Don't be evil by accident. And that's what most people do.
That's I've never heard it expressed that way, and that's a really interesting point. I know, we both know Jean McDonald, and what she's trying to do with AltConf for girls, I think is phenomenal. She was going around counting the number of women in line for WWDC yesterday, and the same thing for the AltConf. It's very, very slowly getting better, but I'm always blown away when it comes to the issue of sexism. I just can't imagine who some of these people are that are treating women like you hear about them being treated at conferences. It's insane, and I'd like to find them and remove them from the opportunity to do so.
And I think that we all would. And I think that the vengeance that sort of builds up in us is what's the most dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to empathize with just the worst people, because when we create a label and say this is evil, this is bad, it gives us permission to be evil and bad to those people.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the code of conduct, that can cut both ways. You want to say let's all get along, but that's a code of conduct right there. And
the funny thing is, my big problem with the code of conduct is that I wanted ethics to be the major topic of discussion, because that's not the thing Apple's going to talk about, right? That's not why people go to Apple's conference, and we're meant to be filling in the gaps. And that's the kind of thing that needs to be filled in.
Right.
How am I going to have an ethics conference and have a EULA that you've agreed to just by walking in the door when EULAs are unethical?
So what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
It has to come from in here, right? It has to come from admitting that we can all get better, not better than each other, but just better who we are, and then doing the right thing, right? Even if that's not what you want to do, a lot of times we know what the right thing to do is. And if we don't, then maybe we take a minute to think about it. And if that doesn't work, then just remember, grace is the way of good, vengeance is the way of evil.
I think that's where we'll leave it. Where do we send people to learn more about you and maybe even more about this issue?
Well, I think that if you want to learn more about me in this context, just AltConf.com, since I'll be involved with this conference as long as there's a need for it. And since it seems to be growing, I think that there's a need for it.
Yeah.
And for this issue, I mean, I think that what Model View Culture is doing is really interesting. I think that there are some of the feminists in particular who have really challenged me and some of the ways that I think about things and the ways that I assume that things are. And these are my friends, and I want to think the best of them. But there are real stories out there by real people who don't have the same experience as me, and that's the most important thing for people who make things for people to figure out.
Yes, agreed. Mike, it's great to see you. Thank you so much, and thanks for all your work on AltConf.
Thank you.
We will do it again. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. We are at AltConference and WWDC, and we hope you'll come back because we have more coming. Thanks for watching.
Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date with all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com.